So here we are with World War III, and I said to the vampires quite some time ago, it was last year, we'd be having the war between Israel and Iran. And now, of course, we've got the war between Israel and Iran. And we see, of course, Trump, who was desperate to keep America out of the war because America's going to get covered with Cobalt-60 and wiped from the face of the earth in the most horrific way possible. Of course, being forced by the Israel lobby to back brave little Israel against the huge Iranian threat. But of course, this all fits in with Lucifer's plan, which was dictated to Albert Pike way back in Confederate times, because Albert Pike was a Confederate. And here's what's going to happen.
Only one world war and two world wars, but here comes the third world war. He says, and I quote, "The third world war must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world." Yeah, that's what he says. The war, this was 1925. Please understand that. At least 1925. May go all the way back to 1871, as is purported to do, but at least it was written in a book and published in 1925. So he says that after World War I was just over a few years, and before World War II even started, he's now thinking about this third world war, and it says that it will be caused by the differences between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. That's what it says. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm in which, in all its horror, will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin and savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. So he's against Christianity and he's against atheism. They're supposed to fight each other to the death, you see. Then, he says, everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowledge where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. That's what he says. Brought finally out in the public view. So he's saying that Lucifer will finally make himself, the good guy. He's going to save the world from these atheists who don't believe in deity and from these Christians who believe in the good God. Well, so it says, this manifestation will result in the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time.
So if you didn't believe this is happening as we speak, and we've got World War III, well, you've been living in a bunker like Elon Musk, scared of your own shadow, because someone's after you, and he doesn't like you, and he's going to cover you with Cobalt-60. So we can see now that this war has started, and Trump, who was scared of his own shadow and was desperate that America wouldn't get covered with Cobalt-60 once It helped brave little Israel, has been overruled and flown back from the G7 to plan for America helping brave little Israel against the Iranian filth. Why, of course, are the Iranians filth? Well, as we've explained in Islam, they are the Satanist form of Islam. The split, remember, there's always the split where evil enters anything. So Lucifer, of course, is the archangel of light, given light from Lilith, the source's probe, and the architect, the Jew god, the Elohim, satanized Lucifer with neos, the filth of the Jesuses, to turn the light bringer black, to turn Lucifer into Satan the devil, where it's fully possessed, like in The Exorcist, by the Jew god, Elohim, Adonai, Sabaoth, Yahweh, Tetragrammaton. Similarly, the Iranian filth are the Satanized version of Allah's chosen ones. So we've got the Shia filth, who are the Satanist form of true Islam, which is the Sunni religion. So as you can see here, we've got the Israelis setting up the war with Iran, which will end with a complete destruction of Iran, to cleanse Allah of the filth of the Iranian scum. And here, of course, we've got what's happening now from the People's Voice, which is basically the only website which I find interesting on the internet. All the rest have been subverted. And we've got Donald Trump has told the Iranian filth to leave Tehran. Obviously, the Americans are going to nuke Tehran after the dirty bombs go off in America. So if you're in Tehran, be well aware that the dirty bombs are going to go off in America, and that Tehran, with its 17 million, is going to be nuked.
Embedded deep in the party, funded by George Soros, the Open Society Foundations, and aligned with elites out of Davos, that's been planning this for years. And under the Biden administration, they finally put it all into motion. The violence you're seeing in major cities, that's not random. That's not a failure of policy. It's the first wave. This is their version of a color revolution. Engineered chaos designed to rip the country apart from the inside out. I was there in meetings where we discussed urban destabilization scenarios. But let's be honest, these aren't contingency plans. They're blueprints for collapse. According to the people running this, all it takes is 4 dirty bombs in the right places. Not to flatten cities, but to create maximum fear, panic, confusion. They want the system to crash, financially, psychologically, politically. Because once people are scared enough, they'll accept anything. That's the play. The public will beg for order, and the globalists will offer it on their terms. Out goes the Constitution. In comes the centralized control. I work directly under 2 of the key architects. John Podesta, strategist with direct lines to WEF operatives, once told me over drinks, America has to fall before anything new can be built. The other, Miriam Lowe, runs Black Media Ops. Her job? To run interference, feed millions into friendly networks to control the story, push fear, and drown out any dissenting voices. The mainstream media is already doing their part. Non-stop propaganda, smoke screens. anyone trying to expose the truth gets discredited, banned, or worse. This is serious. These people are not backing down. They believe the U.S. is the last real barrier to full-spectrum global control, and they're determined to take it down by any means necessary. I never thought I'd see the day where I had to warn my fellow Americans like this. But if we don't wake up now, if we don't resist this, we're done. This is the biggest test our republic has faced since it was founded, and the clock is running out.
The global elites are cornered, and they know their grip on power is slipping. Desperation is setting in, pushing them towards drastic measures. For decades, they've been orchestrating plans to spark a new American Civil War, a calculated move to establish a new world order and consolidate control under a one-world government. Now, with time running out, the globalist ghouls are racing to execute their agenda before it's too late, and all of the pieces of the puzzle have been put in place. The Pentagon has conveniently managed to lose track of trillions of dollars, just like they did before 9/11 happened. And it's not just the US. The globalists have their eyes on the total collapse of Europe and the UK as well. Former British MP Andrew Bridgen has been informed by British intelligence services that the global elite plan to also detonate a dirty nuclear bomb in Europe to force more nations to enter the war, opening the gates of hell and allowing the elite to achieve their goals.
I've got defence analysts feeding me information, and they're in services, and they're saying that there is going to be a nuclear detonation in Europe.
Who by?
Well, it could be a dirty bomb. I mean, there's a lot of nuclear material floating around in Ukraine from their nuclear reactors. I mean, to create contamination, all you need is some conventional explosives and some nuclear material, and you've got a dirty bomb. They may have already been set off in the Donbass area now.
And that could be the false flag that starts the war.
Yeah, there's many ways it can be done.
Like 9/11.
Like 9/11.
So that was a DNC insider dirty bombs plan for major cities to rebuild US from radioactive ashes. But of course, now everything's been derailed by the Israelis, who aren't working with the Rothschilds. Because the Israelis want to take out Iran so they can dominate the Middle East. And the Rothschilds are fixated on Vladimir Putin and the Russians and want to get rid of him, balkanize Russia, and then use the Russians against the Chinese to take them out, pivot to Asia, and then take over the world. So in fact, the war with Iran is exactly what the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the royal family don't want, because it disrupts totally their plans. How? Well, they've got these dirty bombs which are in America with the open borders, and they can detonate them and blame the Russians, and of course have their nuclear war with Russia, because they're mad, thinking they're going to take over the world. But now, of course, if these dirty bombs, which are in America, from the World Economic Forum, are detonated, who are we going to blame? We're not going to be blaming the Russians, are we? No, 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 no. Who are we going to be blaming, cameraman?
Iran.
The Iran, yeah. If in doubt, blame the Iranians. And what's that going to do to America? Are we going to have a civil war in America because Iran detonated dirty bombs in America? I think not. I think we're going to have martial law uniting America under Donald Trump to turn Iran into glass by nuking it until there's not an Iranian left. And of course we can see Trump's warning to the Iranians to get out of Tehran is foreboding or presaging the dirty bomb that will go off in America and will enable the Americans to go full nuclear on Iran. And of course, the Russians aren't going to get in the way of that, as are the Chinese. No, 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 we don't want any of that, because of course Iran's no longer vital to China, because it gets all its oil from Russia now. Same with North Korea. So as you can see, this war with Iran is a godsend for the human race, because it's completely destroyed the Rothschild, Rockefeller royal family plan to start World War III with Russia, and we know that World War III with Russia would mean the extinction of the vast majority of the human race, and it would make things quite unpleasant in my neck of the woods, Vietnam, and after Hong Kong in early August. We know that, but of course, thanks to the Israelis who've come to the rescue, they totally destroyed the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family plan to start World War III with Russia, which of course is the height of insanity, and shows that whatever's possessing the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family wants to turn the planet into radioactive ruins, killing the things inside them with all of the lovely clockwise cobalt-60 radiation, turning the lights out. So, as you can see, the Ukraine war now is forgotten and is irrelevant, and this of course derails the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family plan and the alien filth that inhabits them to start a proper World War III between Russia and America, with proper nukes, and all the NATO filth who are completely possessed. UK, the French, the Germans, the rest wanting to go to war with Russia, which is crazy. And now, of course, the Ukraine war is forgotten, and once the dirty bomb or bombs go off in America, the Americans will completely forget the Ukraine war. It'll be irrelevant, and America will then get the go-ahead for using nuclear weapons on Iran, and that's Kurdo facility where they're reprocessing uranium to make bombs, which is under a mountain, can only be blown to pieces by nuclear bunker busters, and thankfully the heinous dirty bomb attack on America by the Iranians will enable the swift and complete conclusion to the war, which of course then will completely derail the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family plan to start a war with Russia. So as one can see, we were moving inexorably to a World War III between America and Russia, which wasn't good news because they got too many nukes, and with all those lovely electric cars about, thanks to Elon Musk, that would have been the end of most of the planet. But of course, turning Iran to glass, and of course got this.
Shared by our Security Affairs Editor, Mr. Manoj Gupta, that Pakistan is rallying for an Islamic support from nations like all member nations of the OIC. Will they be able to bring in that support from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, or even Jordan is the big question now as far as rallying in that Islamic support is concerned. But most importantly, as Mr. Manoj Gupta has been sharing with us, that Pakistan's intent to supply Iran with the Shaheen 3 medium-range ballistic missile is also being shared if that is the conflict escalates further between Israel and Iran. Having said that, there is going to be a pan-Islamic mobilization of is what is being indicated by these intelligence sources. Pakistan is also demanding an emergency OIC meeting to unify the Muslim nations against Israel, urging those diplomatic ties to sever ties with Israel primarily. How this will now shape up against the United States, against India, because remember, so far India has been able to do that diplomatic balancing, not just with Iran but also with Israel. Will India be able to sort of toe that line of multipolarity? That is the big question that we'll have to see. But closer ties with Iran is something that Pakistan is also looking towards, because remember, as far as the Balochistan insurgency is concerned, primarily at the hands of Jaish al-Adl, that serves in the interest of not just Pakistan but also Iran, because both of them are trying to counter Baloch insurgency. So that is one very crucial factor. Iran's regime is also facing its own set of domestic dissent. Pakistan's support is, of course, more than an ideological one, it is a pragmatic one. Why so? Pakistan is benefiting from this network to counterbalance the influence that as far as Saudi Arabia, even India have on Western forces, not just the one in United States but also in Europe. Pakistan's alignment with Iran is a calculated gamble to secure the energy resources, counter India and stabilize its own western border. This will cost this cost will include potential conflict escalation and economic isolation, which will severely undermine Pakistan's stability. The immediate solidarity may yield short-term gains, but there are going to be long-term costs for it, especially in the larger geopolitical calculus when it comes to Pakistan's own diplomacy. US will ensure that Pakistan chooses sides, whether it chooses to support Israel through the United States or Iran. For how long will Pakistan be able to have that unilateral position? Because remember, just over the weekend, Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar had passed that resolution condemning Israel's airstrikes, calling it a blatant violation of the UN Charter.
Absolutely, Iran.
So, we've got Iran claims Pakistan will nuke Israel if attacked, and of course, the problem with that is that China needs Pakistan to be the #1 enemy of India, to make sure that India is kept under the thumb. And of course, if the Pakistanis supply nuclear weapons to the Iranians, then of course Pakistan will be turned to glass by the Americans after the Iranian dirty bombs. Well, it was the Iranians, whoever detonated them, it was the Iranians. So China will lose its main buttress against India expansionism, Pakistan, if Pakistan backs the satanic, filthy, verminous Iranians who are saving the world from apocalypse by being sacrificed when they get destroyed by the Americans in this war. So as you can see, the entire Israel-Iran war is the Psi-Lord manipulating reality to make sure we don't have a nuclear exchange between the three great powers, Russia, America, and China, and of course we make sure this doesn't happen by showing the horrific fate of Iran and how horrific it is when they get turned to glass, to make sure that the human race is saved from an all-out global nuclear war, and of course from the viewpoint of the source, the satanic Iranian filth, the corruption of Allah, are exterminated in the process. So it's a win-win-win situation, and everyone should be down on their bended knees thanking the Israelis for averting the planned nuclear war between America and Russia, which would have developed with the Ukrainian war, where Britain, France, Germany, all Rothschild puppets, or de Rothschild puppets, were going to be pushing for nuclear weapons to be given to the Ukrainians, dirty bombs, and then it was just escalating, getting more and more stupid, and the eventual result would have been a full-scale nuclear exchange between Russia and the West, which would of course wiped out the majority of the population. So as you can see, psychic warfare is here, bringing the Albert Pike reality of World War III, where in fact World War III is limited to Iran and maybe Pakistan if they're stupid enough, but I can see now the Chinese making sure the Pakistanis stay out, because we need Pakistan against India if we're Chinese. So one can see now that this will cause so much after this nuclear and dirty bomb attack in America and the devastation of Iran, that the British, French and German warmongers will be thrown out of office by their desperate, panic-stricken, terrified constituents who are so terrified of nuclear war that anyone who wants a war against Russia over Ukraine will be lynched in the streets.